This video is brought to you by the fine folks at Cool Stuff Inc. as well as Ultra Pro, but more on that in a moment. Risen Reef, the sexiest little value engine printed in modern times that didn't end up being overly obnoxious and frustrating to play against. I love this guy. He has cute synergies with cards that I love like Mole Drifter and incentivizes and breathed life into a tribe that's never really had its day in the sun until very recently thanks to things like Omnath. Elementals loves Risen Reef. Risen Reef loves elementals. I got today's deck list and inspiration to play this deck from Voloth XP, who writes about Legacy and Vintage over on MTG Goldfish. Link to the original article and video in the description below. The video that he put out shows an entire league with this deck, I believe. So if you want to see more, check that out. The premise is this: we are playing Vintage. Vintage, for those that don't know, is the format where anything goes and everything, almost, is legal. This includes Black Lotus and other bits of power. Cards are usually restricted to one copy as opposed to being banned outright, although that can that can be broken, and sometimes things are banned on a power level on rare occasion. The format largely breaks down to three main archetypes. There is Dredge, a graveyard-based combo deck of sorts, and Shops, an artifact-based stacks deck of sorts, and Blue Pile, which are largely varied from deck to deck, with all sorts of directions you can take, and packages you can use, and haymakers you can make. But if you rock up without power like Ancestral or Time Walking Vintage, it's usually because you're playing Dredge or Shops, the first two decks that I mentioned, and then everyone else is playing some variety of Blue Pile. This rather simplistic overview of Magic's most expensive format might get some Vintage diehards upset with me, but there's only a dozen of them, so I think I'm safe. Vintage is largely what the uninformed believe Legacy to be: broken shit and blue interaction. Legacy actually has a lot more green and non-blue decks in it than Vintage does. Just a thing that I always find interesting, that people have a perception of Legacy, and that perception is normally just what Vintage looks like. The plan for today's deck is to play a Blue Pile, but our focus is on elementals. By Blue Pile, I mean a deck that is using blue cantrips and blue interactions. We're using things like Preordain, Ponder, and Brainstorm, although the latter two are restricted to one copy each, alongside things like Force of Will, Force of Negation, and similar. Then our way to win is to generate value and to beat our opponent down with elementals. So we're going to play Risen Reef as a way to generate card advantage and back it up with two other elemental packages. The first is the good old Young Peasy, a staple of older formats for a very, very long time. It's a 2-mana 2/1 that makes an elemental every time we counter a spell or cast a cantrip, any instant or sorcery, which allows us to draw cards off Risen Reef if we do that with it in play. The second is a selection of two sets of 4 ofs from the pitch cycle of elementals from Modern Horizons 2. These things have been omnipresent across all formats again because they're very, very pushed modern cards. And I fucking hate Fury, if I'm honest. This card is gross and obnoxious and frustrating to play against, and it really hampers the decks that I traditionally like to play in Modern and Legacy.
Hey! Fuck you!
But within the context of Vintage, it's just fine and perhaps more of a meme than anything else in the deck. And that's the truth. The deck is blue cantrips and permission plus elementals. It's basically a meme in and of itself. It's not a meta choice. And that's the deck, really. And there's not really much more to say other than that. Before we jump into the Vintage game, a message from my sponsors. Cool Stuff Inc. are giving you 5% off your next order if you use the code KENOBI at checkout, and it helps to support the show as well and the content that I make. So make sure you're doing that whenever you're picking up a single, sealed product, or like accessories. And on top of accessories, don't forget that Ultra Pro also helps bring this content to you and support me in what I do. This month, Ultra Pro is celebrating the huge range of their colors by featuring hot pink and pink products as their primary focus. Look at these beautiful hot pink products. Oh! If you're looking to pick these up, you can get them from any good retailer, including Cool Stuff Inc. Games! We have won the Dive On. Our opening hand has a piece of power in it, Brainstorm and multiple forces. We can't go wrong. To be honest, the Brainstorm's kind of shit because we have no way to shuffle, but I've kept it now because I am a coward. I'm going to go Mock Sapphire and then play the Brainstorm now in case we draw a fetch. We did draw a fetch. I'm quite good at this. I'm going to play a Force of Will and a Tropical Island. I'm going to play the Misty Rainforest, which might go and grab a Volk for the Pyroblast if something horrible happens. But in reality, what we probably want to do is grab a Trop so we can cast Risen Reef next turn. That said, if we grab a Trop to cast Risen Reef next turn, then the Pyroblast doesn't fucking do anything. Magic is hard. They play an Emerald. They cast Soul Guide Lantern, which is a graveyard hate card. There's a lot of main deck graveyard hate in this format because Dredge is such a difficult matchup turn 1. Game 1, should I say. For pretty much everybody. Ancient Tomb from our opponent. Sphere of Resistance from our opponent, so they appear to be some form of mud. I'm going to Force of Negate that, pitching my Force of Will. We untap and draw the Force of Will that was on top that I knew about. So we're now going to get a Tropical Island, shuffling with a Volk on top. And we're going to cast a Risen Reef. Now, if they are Shops, I guess they could have a Walking Ballista next turn, but if they don't have that, we get to Risen Reef pretty good. pretty good. We get to do some Risen Reef things. Okay, we're going to draw a Fury, and this means we can kill anything next turn with a Fury pitching the Pyroblast, giving us a use for it, and triggering Risen Reef again. I just hope they don't have Walking Ballista. Golos, Tireless Pilgrim. I can't kill that with this. Fuck. It grabs a Tabernacle at Pendle Vale, so we have to pay for our Risen Reef next turn. We drew an Endurance. Okay. Is there a world where I shoot the Golos for 4 here, not getting a whole lot, and just allowing us to essentially draw a card? Pitching 2 cards to draw 1. I mean, Pyroblast is doing fuck all in this matchup because they're on shops anyway, or some variant of mud-style shops. I'm going to do it. This is bad, by the way, but it's going to get us deeper into our deck. Because we aren't drawing anything off this Fury. We aren't casting this Fury, should I say, for a long, long time. I guess we could hit Brainstorm and then, like, Fury plus a red spell as well. We draw an Endurance, which is something. But we aren't on double green right now. They pay 1 for their Golos, surprisingly. Soul Ring from our opponent. They Soul Guide Lantern, drawing a card. Mana Crypt from our opponent. 6 mana for a Godpharaoh's Statue from our opponent. Fucking hell. So all our spells cost 2 extra now. We're going to get hit for 3 by Golos the Pilgrim. We pay for our Risen Reef. We drew a Black Lotus, which is pretty decent, but it costs us 2. Let's cast it. And we're going into the red zone here with Risen Reef. They pay for the Golos. Does Mana Crypt shoot them for 3? It does not. Lucky bastards. Mystic Forge from our opponent. That's very good for them. They have to play things at the top of their library now. They're going to use it to exile a land off the top, which was a Saga. Mishra's Workshop. Sphere of Resistance. So all our spells cost 3 more now. Which means we can't cast Endurance next turn unless we hit a land drop. Or a Mox. But a Mox would cost us mana. We go to 3 damage here from the Golos to 12. Take 1 at the end of the turn from the Godpharaoh's Statue. We're going to pay for the Risen Reef. We drew a Golden Tarn, which is good here. We grab a Trop. I'm just going to go to combat attack them. Our Endurance can block their Golos. So we're going to do it in their turn as it has Flash. Costs us 6 mana, by the way. 3 from the Lotus, Mox Sapphire plus 2 more. Mana Crypt doesn't ping them again. That's 2 coin flips they've won. Fuck. They pay for Golos and they draw a card. They drew a Trinisphere. Sure. Oh, off Mystic Forge, sorry. They still got a card in hand. Okay. Mystic Forge exiles a land off the top. Mox Sapphire off the top, costing 1 more because of Sphere of Resistance. They attack us. We're going to cast an Endurance here. We're just going to cast it for its raw cost of 6 mana because of all the fuckery from our opponent. We're going to trigger Risen Reef, and we're going to trigger Endurance and put our graveyard back into our library. We found a Golden Tarn, which will come into play. We're going to block, and we'll block the Golos. End of turn, we get pinged by Godpharaoh's Statue down to 9, and we untap. We are going to pay for both of our things. We're going to fetch our first Golden Tarn first. We draw Mox Emerald, which costs us 3 mana. So we're just going to play it. It costs us 2 more, but also costs us 3 because of Trinisphere, so it's kind of in the same camp. And then we're going to attack them for 4 here, and they might just die to their own Mana Crypt, which is kind of beautiful. We pass it back to our opponent. Can they win another coin flip in a row? They didn't. We got them. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone in between. We got them. By slapping them with elementals and watching the Mana Crypt finish the job, can we win another game with this ridiculous deck? We're going to cut things like Pyroblast, probably maybe 1 or 2 PZs, maybe some Furies as well if they're not playing traditional mob with Evokers and such. And we're going to bring in like 3 Collector Oof, 3 Energy Flux, 3 Force of Vigor. So we've got a lot of options. I don't need all. Fuck it. We're going to go real hard. I'm actually going to trim 2 Force of Negation on the draw. Because if they go turn 1 Trinisphere or Sphere or some similar Resistance Sphere or anything like that, the forces get a lot worse. But they get good at catching it. They get a lot worse if we draw them. So I'm going to go down now. I'm going to go back up to more forces on the play. Our opening hand looks pretty decent. We've got a way to disrupt their artifacts. Although we've got multiple artifacts ourselves as well. I'm going to keep us off the power of Energy Flux. Mox Pearl from our opponent. Mishra's Workshop from our opponent. Fucking hell. Crucible of Worlds from our opponent. The good thing about Workshop is that I can't pay for the cost of Energy Flux. I'd love to draw like another Ruby here. We'll lose all of our jewels to the Energy Flux, but I don't give a shit because it'll blow up most of their board and make their life a misery. We did not. We had to play a young Peasy early. So we can go Tarn. We're going to go Fetching. Grab a Volk. Play a Mox Ruby. For those wondering at home, we cannot Needle the Pearl. We can Needle the Pearl, sorry, but it doesn't affect mana abilities. They get another turn of going fucking wild with their Mishra's Workshop, and then hopefully Energy Flux will fuck them. Tellurian Academy is not a hard counter to Energy Flux, but it definitely helps. They're going to get Tabernacle here, and you know what? I think I'm going to let Peasy die. Oh, they've got Caracas to get the Golos back. Okay. We untap and we draw the Tropical Island. I'm going to play a Delta. I'm just going to slam the Energy Flux here, because we at least get rid of one artifact, because they can only make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana total, and they need to pay 6 in their upkeep for all their artifacts. So they're going to lose the Crucible of Worlds, essentially. So we're basically tabernacling them. So they put Golos Pilgrim back in their hand. They should have tapped the Academy for the mana first before doing that. That was a mistake. They make 2 off of the Academy. They untap it. Then they've realized their mistake. Magic is hard. So they now only have 4 mana total. So they're going to have to lose the Crucible too. Or they're going to use that to pay for the Mox Pearl, let the Crucible go, make a land drop, play the Golos. Yeah, let the Crucible go. Ghost Quarter from our opponent, which is just a strip mine in this matchup, because we don't have any... Oh no, we have 1 basic island. That's not true. We have 1 basic island. They play a Golos. They get a Tabernacle. So Golos has got an upkeep of 3 now. And we're going to turn off the Caracas' bounce ability with our Pithing Needle next turn. We untap. We've got a Mox Ruby trigger. We've got a Young Peasy trigger. We're going to pay for the Peasy with the Mox Ruby. And then we're just going to let the Mox Ruby go. We drew a Dak Faden, which is actually quite big, because we can just steal their Golos. That seems quite good. I think that's good. Whilst the Caracas is tapped. Okay. But then they bounce the Caracas here. Oh, I'm a fucking idiot. That was dumb. That was dumb. I take the Golos and they just bounce it with the Caracas and replay it again. I'm just going to uptick my Dak Faden then. Draw 2, discard 2. Looking for Force of Vigor. Maybe taking the Pearl would have been good, but then we'd lose the Pearl in our turn anyway. So we drew a Preordain and a Volk here. We've already played a land, so I'm going to keep Preordain in hand. And discard both lands, I think. Obviously, no attacks from us. Pass back to our opponent. They've now got to pay all their taxes for their Tabernacle and their Mox Pearl and so on and so on. So the correct thing to do would be to Caracas the Pilgrim back to the hand after tapping for mana. At least they're not threatening my Dak. I just get to keep like upticking, looking for this Force of Vigor. Surprising to no one, they replay the Golos. I've just realized the Tabernacle's going to be good in the long term against my Young Peasy tokens. They grab a Strip Mine here, because I ditched 2 lands, so that makes sense. I'm going to play a Needle on my Dak, I assume. We're going to pay for the Peasy. We drew a Risen Reef, which is not going to be good this game, because we're not going to have a huge amount of mana. We're going to play the Volcanic Island. Not the Volcanic Island. We're going to use Volcanic Island to cast Preordain, sorry. We make an Elemental. We find Strip Mine and Flooded Strand. We know we've got a fetch land coming up, so we're going to go play the Strip Mine. We're going to sacrifice the Strip Mine to blow up the Tellurian Academy. This makes the taxing that we're doing a lot better. And then we're going to go ahead and play the Needle. And we can either name Ghost Quarter to protect our mana base, or Strip Mine to protect our mana base, or we can name Caracas to stop them bouncing the Golos. I'm going to name Caracas. So now they've got to choose what they want to keep next turn, or they want to Ghost Quarter and Strip Mine us. Keeping in mind that we will get at least 1 land off those things. Also, them sacking lands means they won't be able to pay for the Energy Flux, so they've got to be very careful. They only have 4 mana producing lands for the Energy Flux in play right now. So they're paying 3 to keep Golos around, I believe. And they're paying 2 to keep the Needle around as well. They're attacking Dak Faden with the Golos, which is fine, because we're going to block with the token we weren't going to pay the upkeep for anyway. They play a Wasteland, because of course they do. And a Mox Jet as well. Lots of mana. They're going to Wasteland our Trop, so there's not much we can do about that. So we're not going to pay for Peasy here. The question is whether we still need the Needle on the Caracas, and I'm not sure if we do. They've all got Strip Mines and Ghost Quarters in play. How many other lands can we really be upset by? So we're just going to let that go. We'll drew the Strand that we knew about. We're going to play the Strand, we're going to crack it and grab a Trop. We need to reshuffle our library back in a minute because we're so low on lands. Whether we can do that, it requires us to actually have a way to play the Endurance, which you won't be able to do because they're going to Strip Mine and Ghost Quarter us. Now, Risen Reef really needs to hit lands here, preferably. Most power is bad. I guess a Black Lotus to be able to play the Endurance would be pretty sweet. We're going to say okay to that. I wonder if we get to cast it next turn because they're going to Strip Mine plus Ghost Quarter us. I guess they're going to pay a little mana for their stuff as well. Caracas the Golos back to hand, play the Golos. So we probably do get to dig. So they're going to Caracas the Pilgrim back to their hand. They're going to pay for the Needle. And they're going to play for the Mox as well. They're going to pay for all their stuff. It does mean they can't cast Golos this turn unless they have a Soul Land in hand, like a City of Traitors or an Ancient Tomb. 3 mana for a Crucible is very good here. They get to Wasteland us off green, or replay the Academy. Woof. Making 3 more mana. Not enough to cast Golos this turn though, my friend. So we untap, and we pay 1 for the Risen Reef. We drew Ancestral. It's kind of mad. I guess I'm going to dig through time first, though, because Ancestral can be played when we have less lands when they start strip mine locking us. And we need a way to destroy that Crucible right now. So we cast our dig through time. We find Black Lotus and Force of Vigor. So we're going to go Black Lotus and Force of Vigor, I guess. And then we're going to Force of Vigor the Needle and the Crucible in their upkeep. So we can't use DAC here. We can also let them pay for it before we do it as well, which is pretty gas. Go to combat and slam in for 1. This is an interesting game of Magic. That's why Vintage is cool. Is there a world where I want to recall here off the Lotus? I think I do, because I want to hit land drops and shit. So I'm going to go Lotus. This might be bad. This might be really bad. Make 3 blue. Cast a recall targeting myself. We hit Treasure Cruise here and a Trop. So I'm going to Treasure Cruise. And we're going to get rid of, like, everything in our bin. We draw a Collector Oof, which we can play. So, and we've got a Force of Will as well. We're like popping off over here. That was like an insane sequence of spells. And then we'll just probe them as well. We'll pay the life. Find a Misty. Pass to their upkeep, I guess. In their upkeep, we're going to let them pay for everything. Then we're just going to Force of Vigor the Crucible and the Needle out of here. They pay for the Crucible. They pay for the Jet. That seems weird considering there's a Collector Oof in play. No, it's gone. And they pay for the Needle. And now they can get a Wasteland back, so I'm not going to allow that. So I'm going to exile the Endurance from my hand, kill the Force of the Crucible and the Needle with the Endurance. And this means if they play a Golos, we have to steal it with Dak Faden. Or we can just force it. In all our exiling, I left a Trop in the bin in case we reset with Endurance, just so we got 1 more green source in the deck. I don't know if that was even remotely correct, honestly. They play an Urza's Saga, which allows them to make bodies as of next turn, which actually is a problem for us. They cast a Golos, and they're going to have Caracas up here. So I'm just going to say no to this. They strip mine off our Volk. We untap, and we're going to pay for both of these. We draw Ponder, which is pretty good. I'm going to draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards with Dak Faden. Mox Emerald and a Volcanic Island, which we can't really discard, because I think it's my last fetchable target off as Misty. So we'll ditch both of those. We'll cast a Ponder. We find a Risen Reef and a Young Peasy. I think I just shuffle this. Any order shuffle. We don't need any of these cards. We draw a Collector Oof. So we'll play the Volk. We'll go to combat and we'll attack them. If they make a Construct token, we can just steal it with Dak. That seems pretty good. And then just pay... But then we've got to pay 3 mana for it. We just don't. We just steal it and let it die. And I guess the Saga on the 3rd pip turns off Dak Faden again. So maybe we go to attacks, we attack them, they make a creature, they block the Collector Oof. 2nd copy of Golos. Oof. Okay, this is starting to unravel a little bit. We're not in a good spot. There's a world where we probably don't play the Collector Oof here and we use it to pitch to Endurance or similar. So we get to untap. We pay for both creatures and we draw a Flusterstorm, which is pretty shit here. We're going to uptick Dak Faden targeting us. We're going to draw 2, discard 2. We find some Endurances, which are pretty good, honestly. We discard the Flusterstorm on the 2nd Oof. Yeah. And then we're going to be like pitching an Endurance to make an Endurance in their turn, which will get us a Risen Reef trigger as well. And will give us also a good block into the Golos if they're trying to hit the Dak Faden with it. They make a Construct here. They untap, and now they've got to pay like shit tons of mana into both the Construct and the Golos thanks to Tabernacle and Energy Flux. 6 mana per, or 3 mana per one. 6 mana total to keep their board state. So they're paying. They're just going fucking mad, and they're paying for everything. They're now going to go and search their library for an artifact that costs 0 or 1 exactly. So I'm expecting a Needle for Dak Faden here. Oh, they got a Soul Ring, which generates them more mana this turn, but then blows up to sacrifice effects. They attack Dak with both creatures. I'm going to make an Endurance now. Oh, but I've just realized that I'm dumb. I was thinking I could just pitch to it and keep it, but that's not how that works. Oh, I'm a fucking idiot. We're going to block with a Collector Oof here because it doesn't matter, because I made a fucking dumb move. Collector Oof being in play doesn't do anything other than turn the Soul Ring off. The Soul Ring kind of pays for itself, but we don't really care. I guess it hypes up the Academy, maybe? In my head, because we have the mana to play them, I thought I was just playing them for normal, but I'm not. They play a Sphere of Resistance. Changes things a little bit. Okay. I guess we can steal that and sack it. That's the thing we can do. I've got to pay for my Risen Reef this turn, but then I can't play my Endurance. Unless I top deck a land. Or Dak into a land, I guess. We drew a Dak. So if I steal their Soul Ring, they'll just activate it. I'm going to draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards to try and find the mana for this Endurance. Found a Mock Sapphire that costs 1. That's kind of rough. I feel the game is slipping away from me. It's a very difficult chain of decisions to make. Hard. Not hitting the land there is brutal. We should have stole that construct 100%. Okay, we're going to keep Dak in our hand. No attacks from us because we need a blocker to protect this Dak. Because we need 1 more mana to cast the other Dak. That sphere resolving is huge. We should have stolen it and let it get sacked next turn. We can make an endurance in a pinch, which we can then get sacked and trigger Risen Reef and find us something off the top. They now have a lot of triggers. They are making 5 mana off of the Academy though. Oh, only 4 mana off the Academy actually. The cool thing about Vintage is there's a lot of choices to make. And if I lose this game, it's because I have made the wrong decision. We really want to tap that fucking wasteland. Oh, they let the sphere go, which is amazing. We get to make an endurance here. That could not be better, honestly. There you go. Decision tree moment from our opponent, and they fucked it. They attacked Dak Faden, and we're going to flash in an endurance now that I've not punted it to the moon. There's a reset. Well, there's a make a Risen Reef trigger, and we'll reset our graveyard as well, which is full of all sorts of goodies. I did actually ditch the dig through time of the Ancestral Recall earlier. You find another Risen Reef into hand. Cool. I'm going to go to blocks. I'm going to let the Dak die, but I'm going to kill a construct token on the way out. Oh, the Dak survives because they only hit him for 3. Woof. They play a Crucible here. I think they have a land drop too, so they're going to strip mine wasteland us. Yeah, they're going to ruin our mana base here. We have to deal with that Tabernacle now because the Tabernacle is going to wrath our board, which is kind of rough. Okay, we have no red sources left in play. We're going to pay for our creatures for a turn. Might be the wrong thing to do, honestly. We drew a PZ. We're going to draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. We found a Force of Vigor, which is fucking nuts. And Time Walk's pretty good too, but we can't cast it right now. We'll discard PZ and Risen Reef. We'll go to combat and hit them for 1. End of their upkeep step, we're going to do a Force of Vigor. Once they've paid all the mana for these fucking things. This game, what an insane game of Magic. I love it. So Godos cost them 3, Sovereign cost them 2, Crucible cost them 2. So Sovereign and Academy themselves generate 5 mana. So that pays for Godos and the Ring. They tap their Caracas as well. Brutal. This is going to be a really good Force of Vigor for us. So before their draw step then, we're going to Force of Vigor. I'm going to kill the Crucible and the Pilgrim here. Pitching an Endurance. They don't have a Caracas to bounce back. They kept their Ghost Quarter because they want to deny us mana. They Ghost Quarter us here, which does grab us the basic island in our deck, the only one. They play a transfer for 3 mana. We untap. We're going to pay for our creatures. We draw Mock Sapphire, which costs 3, by the way, to play right now. We attack for 3. Second main phase, we're going to uptick Dak Faden and target ourselves. Draw 2. We'll discard, I guess, Mock Sapphire and the other Dak Faden at this point. Play the Misty. We've got Force of Will plus Time War, but it doesn't do anything into the Trinisphere. So I probably should discard the Force of Will over the Dak, if I'm honest. They let Trinisphere go, and they pay 2 for the Soul Ring. They cast a Mystic Forge, which is that's pretty big. I would love to have forced that. Oh, shit! They sacked the Trinisphere, so I could have forced it. I should have forced it. That was fucking dumb. They Ghost Quarter me here. I don't get to get a land. We still have a Chopper in our deck, though, because of how we fetched earlier, and a Volk, how we shuffled our library back in. So we still have 2 mana next turn. So we untap. We trigger our creatures. We pay for them. We draw Force of Will. We uptick Dak, target ourselves. We pitch Risen Reef and Force of Will to the bin. And we play our land drop for the turn. We've got no more lands left on deck that make mana, by the way. And we attack for 4. There's a world where I should have just stole the Mystic Forge. But I actually think making a land drop is good. Also, we get to, like, force whatever they pay mana for this turn. Because they've got to pay mana to keep the Forge around anyway. They pay to keep the Forge and the Soul Ring. Pay 3 mana for a Phyrexian Revoker. We're going to counter it because it's a blocker. And it also turns off our Dak Faden, which we don't want to happen. They have 2 mana left. What do they do with it? Nothing. Okay. We steal their Forge. We know our next card coming up is Brainstorm. We attack for 4, taking them to 1. They need 2 blockers. And it could do with them not being artifacts, so we can't steal them with Dak. We got there. Risen Reef, hitting them over and over. We got there. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all soon for more Legacy, Modern, Vintage, Commander, Cube, basically everything. I fucking love Magic.